Hi, everyone.
Afternoon.
Hello, welcome.
Hi, everyone. People are joining.
Yeah.
Who's here? Say hi in the chat box.
Yes, please.
I can see some familiar names. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, guys, because, obviously, Andre just woke up.
Well, yeah. Well, a couple of hours ago, right? I'm
That's
still 4 hours behind you. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, guys, just for a bit of context, Andre is not in Europe. He's in Brazil. Hence why he just woke up. Hi, guys. Right. Thank you for joining us again. We've got the last few sessions. I'm quite excited about this one because we have a full house. We have all the language trainers. Some of you, I imagine, some of you will have had experience. Gina is saying Brazil won the first match.
Yes, yeah, and we scored an amazing, beautiful goal, actually. Yes, I'm very happy.
I feel like we're going a little bit off topic with this one.
Yes.
Some of the people joining us today might have been your trainees at some stage, I would imagine. So there's a lot of familiar. Yeah,
definitely. I can recognize some names.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I think so.
Right. Yeah. So Andre, Rachel, and Sylvia have worked with quite a few of our teachers, individually helping them prepare for their national exam, so their lesson planning. And in a way, lesson planning is what we'll be discussing in this session as well. Yeah, Francesca is saying she had a
Hi, Francesca.
She had a private lesson with Sylvia. Hi, Jeanette. So shall we get a move on then? So this will be a slightly different presentation. It's going to be a shared one. Okay. Speaking of sharing, this is my screen shared. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. So I'm very, very pleased to be able to announce our next big project. So we've told you about the projects that we have carried out so far. And this is the big thing that all four of us have been working on for the past 4 months, I feel. It's a conversation program for language teachers. So it's called Speak Better, Teach Better, and we'll see in a moment what that means. And it's a program of conversation classes for teachers discussing teaching, so improving your speaking by discussing teaching. And why are we doing this, really? If you can see this little comment here, when English is not your native language, reading in English, easy, watching a movie, it's okay, listening to an English podcast, piece of cake, but speaking English, oh hell. And this is an experience that a lot of people have reported to us. So it's a request that we got from quite a lot of people, I need to improve my speaking, my fluency, my accuracy, my vocabulary. I think you guys can back me up on this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
And so we thought we would respond to this by putting together a program called Speak Better, Teach Better. It's going to be a program for only a few people because it's a program of live sessions. So it's going to be different from our self-study courses. And during this little presentation today, we'll be telling you about what it is, why you could join it, what topics you will discuss, and then we'll take you through a demo lesson about teaching pronunciation. So you'll get some ideas about teaching pronunciation, which in the previous sessions has come up as a topic. So ideas for teaching pronunciation. So I'm glad this is what we picked. And we'll take you through an actual lesson plan that we plan to do during the program. Okay. And then we will give you the opportunity to sign up to join a free trial lesson, which we will do next year. All right. So over to Sylvia now.
Okay, thank you. So, as Chiara mentioned earlier, what is Speak Better, Teach Better? What is our program about?
essentially it's a conversation course, and it's for language teachers, not necessarily Italian teachers of English, but any language teacher. Our program, our course is aimed at kind of like interweaving both speaking skills and teaching skills. So our participants will learn to speak English better, and so they can work on sub-skills like accuracy, fluency, pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. And they will be doing this by discussing the common EFL topics. So they will be sharing ideas, methodology, problems and solutions, and new techniques. So essentially, they're working on 2 different skills, but at the same time, simultaneously. Okay, Cara, if you want to move on to the next one. Okay, so as Cara said, who are the authors? So it's myself, Chiara, Andre, and Rachel here. And we've been trying to meet up. I say trying because it's been a bit of a challenge for the past 4 months online.
Well, I mean, it's different time zones, don't forget, but we have been meeting
Exactly.
very frequently while writing the lesson plans. Yeah,
Exactly.
So
exactly.
basically, I'm the biggest obstacle, right? Because I'm 4 hours behind, and I think
Not
Rachel's
really,
only
not really.
one.
we didn't want to say that, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, considering we're all working either full-time or part-time, it's been a challenge. But yeah, so we've been working together for the past 4 months, and we've decided to design a 10-hour course, a 10-hour program. We will be meeting you on Zoom, platform Zoom, and it's going to be small groups of 6 people plus us, your tutors. What we've decided to do is to divide the levels so that you can select the level that you feel most comfortable with. So it would be either B1 or B2 or C1 and C2.
So the topics will be the same, but the lessons will be tailored.
Exactly, yeah.
Level.
Around, yeah, it will be around your level, tailored around your level. Yeah. So if you have any questions, further questions about this, you can drop a message in the chat. If not,
Always.
I'm giving the floor to Rachel.
Right, so it's important to us to share the philosophy behind our conversation course, a little like many of you did for your concorso. We'll be adopting an eclectic approach from methodology, so we practice what we preach, as you can see. Firstly, the course is conversation-driven, so it focuses on emergent language, the language that is generated by the students during class, spontaneously, the language that comes out. And you will receive feedback on that language and how to develop it. The course is also inspired by content-based instruction, as it covers methodology-related topics, as we will see in a minute. Finally, it includes elements of task-based and cooperative learning, because you will be discussing with other teachers in a group, and you will complete tasks and learn together with them and with us, your trainers. We can move on to the next slide and have a look now at the content in detail. So as everyone mentioned before, these will be interactive lessons on practical topics that we have selected based on what we think teachers need, relevant for middle and high school foreign language teachers of any language. And you can see the list here. We will begin with a get to know you session, useful with ideas that you can also use in your classes. Then we'll move on to teaching grammar, error correction and feedback, teaching with technology and games, teaching low levels, differentiating lessons, dealing with disruptive students, and teaching pronunciation. So these are the topics, and over to Andre now.
Yeah, and before we move over to Andrea, I want to stress again something that I don't know if it's come through, but this is for foreign language teachers of any language, meaning Spanish teachers, German teachers, French teachers. So these topics are sort of applicable to any language that is being taught as a foreign language, of course. So over to Andre now.
Definitely. And if I may say something about the topics very quickly, because I think we can all, give the audience a preview of what they can expect, because, you know, we all planned the lessons together, but we did in a different isolated way at first, and then we came together and looked at each other's lessons. And I feel that the first one is really about breaking the ice and establishing rapport with your students, so that we know from a neuroscientific, and I always have to say that, right, from a neuroscientific perspective, if you do not connect with your students, they are not very likely to want to learn from you. So we're going to give you some tips on how to do that. And then teaching grammar. So who can talk about this one?
I mean, I think we could all talk about all of them in details. Teaching grammar was Sylvia. Sylvia's interest.
Yeah.
What Andrea is trying to get at is the fact that we put our own interests and our own expertise at the service of, and this is very important, the topics that the teachers told us that were problematic, like teaching grammar, for example.
Definitely.
Or, you know,
Yes.
how do you correct students? How do you use technology effectively? And teaching pronunciation is interesting because it came up a lot today. So I'm very keen to show you our demo lesson in a bit. So moving on, sorry, before we move on, actually, in the chat, people are asking when can we join and how can we join, and we'll give all the information at the end. But basically, you can just sign up for a trial lesson, and you can sign up to be notified when the program starts next year between January and February. We haven't established the dates yet, but Annalisa, if you could already share, or Andrea or Annalisa, if you could already share that that little survey so that people can already perhaps start signing up if they don't have time to stay for the whole session. Okay.
Perfect. So I can share right now.
Yeah.
And then
Thank
let me know if you can access the link.
Yeah.
But basically, as Chiara said, all of us have, you know, made our contributions to planning the lessons, and we looked at each other's lessons, and this really came from your demands as teachers preparing for the concorso, and we really thought about the main topics that were, you know, probably the most problematic ones and the ones that you wanted to know more about. And sometimes we didn't have time to focus so much on them because we were trying to look at the whole planning. And then, of course, hopefully this is going to cater to your needs, I think.
Yeah,
and again, it would be
will.
great for us to receive feedback on that as well, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And then moving on to the next one then, Chiara. So why should you join this program? Basically, first of all, because I think one of the most, something that many teachers asked us is, how can we improve our proficiency? How can we speak better? How can we actually practice language? Because that was not really the focus of our session. So this is really for English development as well, especially for that, because we're going to help you develop fluency and confidence in a safe environment. And that's why we chose to work with smaller groups, because, you know, we don't have a lot of time with all of you, and then we have to be able to listen to all of you, to give feedback on language and to get you to talk about different topics. And I think this is very important because I feel like we didn't do that as much when we were conducting the sessions with you, because we really had just a couple of minutes and we had to focus on the outcomes of your lesson and, you know, the procedures and all of that. So this is really focused on giving you feedback on language. And also we are going to have time for vocabulary development. So you will come out of every session with a couple of words that you should focus on, that you should include in your linguistic repertoire so that you can start using them more often. And I think that's great, especially when we consider more advanced teaching and learning of English. I mean, sometimes we get stuck and on a plateau, right? So we just use what we feel comfortable with. And I feel that this is going to give you some ground for you to go beyond that. And it's also about professional development. We know that you have some problems in the classroom that sometimes you want to talk about, and maybe you didn't have the space, the time to do that when we were conducting our sessions as well. Because again, we have to focus on, you know, trying to help you pass the concourse. So that was the main objective anyway. And then, of course, hopefully we will be able to establish a friendly environment, because we know that we can work much better when we feel comfortable and safe, and then we can share things. This will be great for networking as well. Hopefully you will be, leaving the sessions with new friends, and then people you can talk to, and you can share, you can learn from them, you can teach them as well. Hopefully we will be able to make it a safe and relaxed environment. And finally, specialized expertise as well, because all of us here, we come from different backgrounds, but we have the foundational knowledge, I would say, that can help you get where you are trying to get to, and then we can somehow guide you to the objectives you are pursuing. So you're going to get feedback from us. I have an MSc. I hold an MSc in psychology of education, and then we have Delta tutors, and we have an MA in TESOL. So we are trained teachers who can really give you the guidance that you need to basically accomplish your goals, right? And hopefully develop the speaking and knowledge that you need for the classroom and the concorsi.
Yeah, so both of them, obviously. Some of you are still doing the concorsi, some of you are hoping to do a concorso soon, and obviously you will need both the knowledge and the speaking, and this way you can develop both. But it's also for practicing teachers who want to feel more confident. Okay. So how does the program work? So in a nutshell, it's a bit more complicated than this, but in a nutshell, there will be, in each session, there will be an introduction where we elicit from you your experiences and your knowledge. And then there will be a discussion of your views on the topic. So if the topic is teaching pronunciation, for example, what are your views? How do you do it? And then as has been mentioned many times, we will incorporate error correction and feedback, personalized error correction and feedback on your language. So the language that you produce as you speak at every step, like every step of the way. Well, gentle error correction and feedback. Obviously, we won't be correcting you all the time, because it will depend whether we're doing a fluency based or an accuracy based activity, but the point is you will come out of each lesson knowing a bit more about the language. And then you will be learning some content. We mentioned content-based instruction before, so you will come out of each session knowing a bit more about teaching, just like you will do at the end of the language day. So you'll be learning about some new strategies for your classroom through discussions, through watching videos, through reading some short texts, some short articles. So you will always come out with new of the sessions with new ideas. And again, we will give you feedback on your speaking, your vocabulary, your grammar, and so on. Okay, so there's this double element there that we want to implement. And now I'm ready. I'm very excited to do this. I've never done something like this. To lead you in a demo lesson. I'll be leading you in this demo lesson, and Rachel, Andrew, and Sylvia will be chiming in at different stages. But basically, I want to walk you through what a lesson would look like of this program. Okay. Obviously, this is a conversation program, so you would be talking, you would be doing speaking activities, which we can't do today because it's over 60 people here today. So just for today, we'll transform the speaking activities into typing activities. So we'll ask you to type in the chat box. But obviously, you have to imagine that anything we are doing today, you would be doing via speaking. So it's an hour and a quarter of pure speaking. Okay, each lesson will be an hour and a quarter of pure speaking. So let's start, shall we?
Yes.
We'll start, as usual, from an activity eliciting from you. So we have here 4 views of 4 teachers, right? Which teacher or teachers do you agree with and why? And we would ask you to share your views on this. We have Anne, who says, I never teach pronunciation in class. Beth, who says, I sometimes model pronunciation and drill. Drill is when you ask your students to repeat. Carlo says, I try to teach pronunciation every day. And Diana, I don't think I should teach pronunciation because I'm a non-native speaker. So I'm going to give you a minute or so to read these views and tell us who you agree with and why. So Eleanor is saying, will the sessions be held at the weekends or weekdays? We haven't made the calendars yet, but we will take into account your requests. There's a lot of
Carlo. There's loads of Carlos, yeah.
Yep, some Beths.
Because students pick up pronunciation from TV and song.
Carlo's very popular.
Carlos,
Yeah.
Annalisa is even saying, I couldn't agree more with Carlo. I'm picking up on some language there. I couldn't agree more with Carlo. This is a typical thing we would pick up on, am I right? Like if you said it actually in a speaking activity, I couldn't agree more with.
Ooh, we lack time to focus on pronunciation.
Yeah,
That's
Sylvia, go ahead.
I was just reading
Yeah.
one of the comments. So Deborah says, we lack time to focus on pronunciation. Plus, being a non-native teacher, I teach just a standard pronunciation. That's interesting. We would definitely be looking at what she meant by standard pronunciation here.
Yeah, that would be, I feel like that would be the start of a big conversation, right? What is standard pronunciation?
Yeah.
Am I right?
RP.
Is it RP? RP is received pronunciation, right? What you would hear in the BBC. Is that standard pronunciation? Is standard pronunciation more of a myth?
Exactly.
Yes.
It would probably be what is standard for teachers or their context, you know, students' expectations. Like we would be digging into your beliefs because obviously we don't believe there is a standard pronunciation.
No, but some people would. Like, I think some people would believe that there is a standard pronunciation. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Obviously, it's just a case of like explaining what is a standard pronunciation to you, I guess.
To you, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So there would be space for each person to explain.
And standard where exactly? Because nowadays we live in a world of, you know, English as a lingua franca, let's say, and then it depends on the context as well.
It does depend on the context, yeah, and the context will be a bit different between people. And Sabina said, sometimes I feel a bit like Diana. I don't think I should teach pronunciation because I'm a non-native speaker. Which we all are.
Interesting, yeah. Which
we all are, to the exception of Sylvia, who's a bit of a native speaker. Well, we all are non-natives, right?
True, yeah.
Right. Antonia is saying the main thing is to use pronunciation in a better way, not in a sterile way. How do you guys pronounce sterile?
Sterile, yeah.
Sterile.
Yeah, just like you said it.
Sterile, yeah. And so this would be another typical thing where I would do possibly a little bit of a focus on pronunciation and word stress and differences with Italian. So sterile. Would you pronounce this with a stress on the first syllable, second syllable? It's the same as in Italian, you know, typical mistakes of Italian speakers, putting the stress on the second to last syllable, just to give you an idea of the things we would focus on. Yeah.
There are two possible sound shapes. There can be sterile as well.
Sterile.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of people are starting to talk about world Englishes and lingua franca. Yeah. Oh, Elena says, I agree with Carlo. Pronunciation is the most important thing to learn in a language. That's a strong opinion, isn't it? The most important thing. It's like our business card. Pronunciation is a physical experience. I always teach it mirroring Adrian Underhill's method. Which more than a method is a series of things, because Underhill is a very prolific writer. There is so much to unpick in here, don't you think, guys?
And Deborah brings up a very valid point, and it has come up throughout the whole language ed. She says, well, we have so many students in classes that are dyslexic. So teaching pronunciation is going to be a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely should. Yeah, we will address the topic of dyslexic students in the classroom because it's the reality. And we want teachers to feel comfortable when they have dyslexic students in the classroom and how to deal with them.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and there is a whole session on differentiation as well. So
Yeah.
that's a topic of a full session. Okay. Right. So after this, you will be moving on to a breakout room activity. These will be used sparingly, but there will be one, perhaps two breakout rooms, brief breakout rooms activities during each session, in which you will discuss and report back. So we are going into the more practical side now. So which pronunciation activities do you know? Which activities do you know and do you already do in your classroom? Can you type them in the chat? Obviously, you would be discussing with each other, right, in the lesson. But here, can you just type them for us?
Back chain, Sabina.
Ooh, back chain.
Drills, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody want to explain back chain?
I think it's a Rachel thing.
It is
It's
such a Delta thing.
I like how you say it's a Rachel thing. So yeah, I guess you would at word level, you would start with the last syllable of a difficult word. Give me a difficult word. Repetition.
Yeah.
Right.
Repetition, yeah.
So you would start shun to also get students to notice the weak vowel there, shun, tition, to notice the stress, petition, repetition. So they would repeat after you following that pattern, or you could also do that at sentence level. If you have 2 or 3 words, one of them is a bit weak, like I'm going to London, London, to London, going to London, I'm going to London. So you could do that at word and sentence level.
Yeah, exactly. We have a lot of drills.
Tongue twist.
Tongue twist.
Yes, I love tongue twists, you know.
Are they twists or twisters? I call them
Twisters, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Twister, yeah.
The 3 chairs for for ED pronunciation. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the ED, how you pronounce ED at the end of past tenses. Yeah.
Oh, IPA symbols. Okay. Wow, Francesca.
I mean,
Excellent.
that's big. That's
Yeah.
big, isn't it? The International Phonemic Alphabet. I think it's debatable as well, and it would depend on what levels you're teaching and what age groups you're teaching as well. But I have worked with IPA, and it does work really well sometimes.
Yeah. I think 16 plus. I would go
Possibly.
with 16 plus. Yeah.
And possibly
Somebody
maybe...
mentioned Mark Hancock, who is
Yes.
a brilliant author. Yeah. And the prom pack, you know, the prom games, they are amazing. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right, so moving on, and imagine that you would be doing this obviously in breakout rooms, so learning from each other and speaking about these things. And we would be listening in, of course. And now we move on to the bit where you learn something new, okay, and you relate to the things you already know. So we're asking you to read the advice on a Padlet that Andrea is going to share with you now.
Yes.
In the chat. So can you please open the Padlet and read the activities or some of the activities in the Padlet and answer these questions in the chat. Which activities are you already using? Which activities would you avoid and why? Which activities would you like to try next week? Okay, so imagine again that you would have a couple of minutes to read the activities in the Padlet, and then we would be discussing them like live. Okay. So Rachel, I haven't been able to open the shared document, but are you updating it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I can't, because I'm sharing my screen. So this is what the Padlet looks like. These are the questions you'd be answering. Apologies. Right, guys, can we just ask you to, maybe you haven't had time to go through all of the Padlet, but just for the sake of moving the session along, even though obviously during the Speak Better, Teach Better program, you would have all the time in the world to go through the Padlet. Just for the session, the sake of speeding the session along, can you share with us if there is an activity you're already using and which ones would you avoid and which ones do you like? Which ones would you like to try? So can you pop your answers in the chat box? Personally, if I had to share my view, I haven't done the Snap game in a while, but it was so much fun every time I did it. Yeah, Sabina would like to try the Snap. Oh God, it was so fun. I even did it in a business environment. So Roberto says, I wouldn't show the phonemics from a dictionary. Okay, Roberto, would you care to tell us why? Deborah would try micro dictation. Okay, micro dictation and Snap. Okay, yeah. Oh, micro dictation is really
quite popular.
Yeah.
Quite popular.
Yeah.
Okay, Rachel, do you want to tell us about micro dictation?
Sorry, forgot I was muted.
You're right.
So that could be, again, a short passage or just isolated sentences from a text that you would read to your students multiple times, maybe 2 or 3 times, and they would listen and transcribe what they heard, write down the words, the exact words you're saying, the purpose of which can be for them to just identify vocabulary or new grammar structures, or even any features of connected speech that happen between words that crush, any sounds that disappear or change.
Yeah. Antonia says she wouldn't use dictation or debates in speaking at his, and I can see why. Roberto is giving us his reason. They don't know the IPA, but dyslexic students to hear the pronunciation could be more effective and inclusive. And again, this goes back to the point that you have to know what students you're teaching.
Yeah,
definitely. Laura is saying the fast part, they tend to panic and give up very soon. Okay, so you're being very practical with this. Yeah. And this is exactly the type of dynamic, I think, I don't know what you guys think, but I think this is the type of dynamic that would happen in our Speak Better, Teach Better class. So, you know, people sharing their ideas, oh, I would do this, I wouldn't do that because of this and this other reason. Yeah. Right. Okay. So you're sharing your ideas. Thank you very much. Keep them coming. And then we would move on, if I can, we would move on to a final stage of feedback and Q&A. Now, feedback, as I said, is incorporated at each stage of the lesson, but we have also decided to reserve a final stage, a final few minutes for feedback to sort of recap a little bit. Linguistic points mainly, so it's recapping grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation points on the whiteboard, and Q&A. Q&A can be both on language, so questions that you have on the language, or questions you have on the content. because again, it's on both things. Rachel, am I right thinking you've been collecting some emergent language?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, so Rachel,
perhaps I could share my screen.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll give you.
Right.
Rachel will give you a taste for what that might look like if instead of typing these things, you had actually said them. So we explained before the philosophy of the course, it's partially based on the idea of emergent language. So the language that emerges from the production of the students, right? And we would work with that. So Rachel, can you share your screen?
Sure. And I'll just make a note. I'd like to add that it would be not always correction, but sometimes, helping you upgrade what you originally said into saying it into a different way. So naturally now it was just a few minutes and it was mostly typing, and we understand that it could have been a typo. So I'm just using it as an example. For example, nice sentence, Rachel. So pronounce, we would show you the written form, which is with OU. It can be tricky. And pronunciation is without the O, so it's the noun is written with a U, the verb
Although,
with
raise your
O.
hand if you've if 9 times out of 10 you write it incorrectly, because that would be me.
Not anymore, but I did. Yeah,
definitely. I can't write this correctly for the life. Save my life.
No
Sorry.
judgment, everyone. Okay. We picked up on tongue twists, and we corrected it. Tongue twisters, this repeated sentences that confuse students, this torture for the tongue. And we would offer, for example, an alternative. You can, when you want to talk about ED pronunciation, you could say pronunciation of past ED endings, for example, as is often mentioned in grammar books, or the past of regular verbs, because we're talking about regular verbs when we tackle the ED pronunciation. Learning pronunciation by listening to songs, we could also say through exposure, right? Because we have this receptive exposure, what we hear, what we listen, and then productive use, for example. So when we learn by listening, we can also say through exposure, receptive exposure to the language or songs. And maybe the string by string that I read in a comment could be reformulated to step by step, whether that was like a noticing activity, taking them step by step, or step-by-step explanations or instructions, or noticing, moving from one bit to another. That's all I could just take notes of for now, just to give you an idea. And we would actually record that perhaps on the Zoom whiteboard. We could also elicit your thoughts. It's much easier when it's done in a conversation rather than typing in the chat box, as you can probably imagine.
Yeah, but that would be our sort of systematic approach. So we would give you feedback throughout the session, but then also have a final review in which we would pick up on things that perhaps have emerged as a pattern, because we would be listening in on the breakout rooms and then in the whole group discussions, and things tend to emerge in patterns, right? So more than one person would be saying, maybe making the same mistake or saying things in similar ways. And so at the end, we would give feedback on vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar points. Reformulating, for example, like Rachel is saying, because something you've said might be completely correct, but maybe there's a different way of saying it. And that way, like Andre said, you go beyond your plateau. Maybe you say the same thing in the same way for 10 years, and then after our lesson, you start saying it in a different way. You incorporate new vocabulary in your repertoire. And so here we are. So towards the end of the session, you will always have feedback from us, personalized and group feedback from us. You will always get a chance to ask all of your questions and discuss with the trainers. And then there will always be a final focus on vocabulary. So we will ask you to find, each of you will find 5 words or phrases. These could be chunks, more than a word, like an expression, that you've learned, okay? And you will have dedicated time to put this in a vocabulary log. And we will provide you with a vocabulary log that you will keep updated. And we really care that you get the time to do this during the lesson, because if you don't do it during the lesson, then you end up sort of never doing it and forgetting about it. And that is why we provide specifically allocated time at the end of the lesson. So just to give some examples, guys, what are some words or phrases that you have either learned or that you've had that we've reminded you of during this session? If you want to type that in the chat. I think for me, tongue twisters, right?
I was going to say that one, yeah, definitely.
Because it's not very high frequency. I mean, you don't say it very often, do you? So pronunciation,
we do, yeah.
Yeah. Emergent language, yeah, that's, yeah, in terms of vocabulary, but also as a concept and also as pronunciation, because it's not emergent, it's emergent language, and like there's different sides to this, right? Okay. Perfect. And obviously after a whole hour, 15 minutes worth of discussion, you will have a lot more snap, Carla is saying. You would have a lot more. You would have actually be spoiled for choice for what you would say. Exposure, back chain. Yeah. Very good. Well done. Yes, absolutely. Okay, guys. Perfect. I think we're at the end of our presentation. So a lot of you have asked us when we're opening this up. And we are planning to open this up at the beginning of next year. Okay. If you want to be notified, if you want us to send you an email when we open the registrations, or if you want, if you want to join us for a free trial lesson, we will be doing one free trial lesson because we want to try out the materials with you. Can you fill in the form? So Andre, can you share the form again?
There it is.
Right. And Jeanette is asking us, could a native speaker join this course? Obviously not for the speaking practice, but for the content. You'd be absolutely more than welcome to.
Absolutely.
Native speakers, very proficient speakers. We feel that, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but we feel that the sessions are A, good for the content, B, good for the interaction. You will always get something out of them because you will be doing this with 5 other people plus your trainers. And also very flexible in the way that they're designed. So there's open-ended activities that can go in very many different directions. So yeah, Jeanette, I think definitely.
And also getting the chance to chat to peers in general and meet new people from the same field. Yeah,
absolutely. Eleanor is saying, what if at the same time of a live session we have a consiglio di classe, for example? We haven't really scheduled them yet, but we are thinking of making the recordings available, Eleanor. So we can't really, I mean, supposedly you would be able to agree a redo with your own trainer if the other people agreed, but that could be a bit clunky. So we would have to see what the calendar looks like. And I think if you can look at the calendar before joining and see, okay, I can make maybe this class, but not this other class, you know, join a course that has times that are convenient for you.
And we'll try and work out, obviously, times and days that work for teachers. I mean, we're all teaching here, so we understand very well that. So we don't know if it's afternoon or evening yet, but I work morning and afternoons and sometimes evening myself. So we do understand, and we will take this into account when we plan the calendar.
Of course, and we all have different availabilities as well in
Yeah.
terms of days, and you know, like Andre, for example, will be available in the afternoon because he's based in Brazil, and then, you know, it'll be different times. It'll be more than one course is what I'm trying to say. You will have options for what courses to join. Georgie is saying, will it be recurring or just this one course? We'll start with one iteration at the beginning of the year, but like I say, it won't be just the one course. You'll have more than one day a week that you can join, if that makes sense. So there will be, I don't know, like Andre will be teaching a few courses, Sylvia will be teaching a few courses, and Rachel will be teaching a few courses. So choose hours where baby are at the daycare. Oh, preaching to the choir with me, Deborah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's why we'll make different hours available. Absolutely. And you can always give us your feedback. You know. Very good. Does anybody have any further questions or any questions that we missed from before?
Oh, yes, I spotted a question earlier that I think is relevant. So I can't remember who was asking, is it going to be divided as scuola media teachers and scuola superiore teachers?
No, we talked about this, didn't we? No, we don't think we will be doing that, because that would create a bit of an issue
in numbers, I think, first of all.
Yeah, and in scheduling the sessions. And also because we really do, because there are teachers who teach both, or who have taught both. There are teachers who teach secondary school, but they have A2 level students, and there are teachers who teach middle school, and they have talented students who are like B2 level or native speakers, you know. So there is a lot of overlap there, and we don't think it would be beneficial to divide them, because some people might be like, okay, so what do I join now? And also because we think it would be really beneficial to sort of help each other and learn from each other. And the topics are, as you've seen today, the topics are structured in such a way that there isn't really a strict sort of distinction between middle school and upper secondary school.
And also the activities that we've designed, they are easily adaptable to any level. You just have to, you might have to grade language, and that's it.
Yeah, but mainly this is, I want to stress this again, this is mainly a conversation program. I mean, it is, yes, it is about teaching, it is about sharing, blah, 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 but it's mostly about improving your English, not your English, but like improving your confidence and your speaking.
Fluency, accuracy,
Francesca's asking, it is about the content as well. So yeah, so it's, you know, it's two aspects. I don't want to downplay the content aspect, but it is, it's a lot to do with talking through your issues and talking through these topics. Sorry, Sylvia.
Very quickly, Francesca is asking, which level should we choose? B2, C1 or C1 and C2? I would go with the one that you feel most comfortable with, Francesca.
Yeah, so if you are between a B2 and a C1, I think go with what you feel like. So if in that moment you fancy a challenge and you think, okay, this is the moment to challenge myself, I want to be in a group with people who perhaps have a slightly higher level than I do, then go for C1, C2. And if at that moment you feel, no, I want to reinforce the things that I do, I want to go at a slightly lower pace and take my time with it, then you go for the B1, B2 level. I hope I've answered your question. Okay. Right, guys, it's been lovely. Andrea, can you type in the form again, just to leave you with it? Okay. Right. So this is the form where you can express your interest in a free trial lesson, and also in being notified when the registrations open next year. Okay. So thank you very much, guys. It's been lovely. I hope you've learned something about pronunciation and how to structure a conversation lesson. And that's it. I don't know if you guys have anything to add. Thank you, Vincenza. That's very nice. You guys are really precious. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. And thanks, everybody. And
thank you for coming, everyone.
Yeah, we're going to get ready for Andre's session on aims, assessment and outcomes in 10 minutes. So see you there, guys.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.